Hi there and welcome to TechPlower. I was interested to see the difference between the cameras of the Samsung Galaxy S7 and the iPhone 6. Here is my comparison. Let's start by checking out the still photos. If we start with a beautiful mountain view with HDR enabled on both phones, we can see that the colors on the S7 are more vivid than on the iPhone 6. But I think the colors on the iPhone 6 are more natural and more close to the real colors. If we turn off the HDR mode, we can see that the S7 picture is a little bit darker colors. But in the iPhone 6 picture, we get less contrast, especially if we look at the clouds. And if we set the HDR mode to auto, it seems like both S7 and iPhone 6 just take a normal photo in this scenario, which is a little bit strange because we have clouds and different contrasts in the image. Let's take a look at some close-ups. If we set the focus on the brands, we can see that the S7 gets a beautiful bokeh effect, which is not as clearly apparent in the iPhone 6 photo, but we get very bright and vivid colors in the S7 photo. But as before, I think the colors are more natural in the iPhone 6 one. But the general focus on the independent needles of the brands is better on the S7. Let's draw the attention to the background. The S7 delivers much brighter image and more detail in the tree branches in the background, while the iPhone seems to get a better contrast in the image. Let's take a look at another close-up picture. As we can see here, we again get a brighter image with the S7 with much more detail on the metal pole. On the iPhone 6 picture, we get less detail and it's much darker than in real life. If we then switch to the far focus with the same image, we get more detail in the mountains with the S7, and the iPhone 6 get a better representation of the clouds compared to real colors. Let's take a look at some panorama shots. Because we have a lot of difference between bright and dark areas in this picture, the S7 seems to struggle to get the correct brightness, and the image seems to get a little bit too dark. The iPhone 6 seems to be able to get more natural brightness and colors in these panoramas. You can especially see it in the second picture that the clouds get way too bright in the S7 picture. They're too bright in the iPhone 6 picture as well, but it handles it a little bit better, and the overall brightness in the iPhone 6 panoramas is better. Now let's take a look at pictures that most phone cameras struggle with. That is, taking photos in low light. If we use the flash, the images with the S7 gets too bright with the flash, but the iPhone 6 seems to handle the flash better and gets closer to real colors. But on the other hand, if we disable the flash, the S7 gets a much better picture in low light and closer to real colors than the iPhone 6, which delivers too dark and more grainy picture without the flash. Here's another example, where the flash is set to auto, and here we have a much brighter and more detailed image from the S7, and the same as before with the iPhone, the image is too dark and grainy. So the S7 is a clear winner here. Let's now turn our attention to the front-facing camera. The S7 offers HDR on the front-facing camera that the iPhone 6 does not. But let's do a comparison anyway. The S7 HDR on the front-facing camera does not seem to work very well on the clouds in the background of this image, and I think it's way too sharpened, but it has a great focus on the face. As I said, the iPhone 6 does not have HDR on the front-facing camera, but the clouds seem to look a little bit better than on the S7, but other parts of the picture seem to be a little bit washed out. If we turn off the HDR on the S7, we don't see much of a difference in the photo. So that tells me that the HDR mode on the front-facing camera isn't working that well. We don't see any difference in the iPhone, since we don't have the HDR mode there. Let's check how the low-light images fare with the front-facing camera. The S7 pictures are, I would say, acceptable. They're a little bit smoothed out, but not too grainy. But the iPhone 6 pictures are way too grainy, and they're quite terrible. In this second picture, the iPhone picture is a little bit better. It's not as grainy as the previous picture, but it's a little bit washed out. It's the same with the S7 picture as before. It's acceptable, but not too grainy. So the S7 is a clear winner for the front-facing camera in the low-light department, as before. Now, let's turn our attention to the video. Let's see how the S7 and the iPhone 6 handle video stabilization. Since the S7 has OIS or optical image stabilization, we can see that it handles the video stabilization a lot better than the iPhone 6. The video is more jerky on the iPhone 6. It's not bad on the iPhone 6, but not as good as on the S7. Let's take a look at some 4K video. Since the iPhone 6 does not offer 4K video, we just have to compare to 1080p footage from the iPhone 6. Even though there's a big difference in pixel quantity between 4K and 1080p, I don't see much difference between the S7 4K and the iPhone 6 1080p. The colors in the 4K video on the S7 seem to be quite darker than they really are, and the iPhone 6 seems to get more natural end-to-life colors, and the 1080p video in the iPhone 6 gets more brighter. We might see a little bit more difference. In the second 4K video, we might see some more detail in the branches, and we might spot more detail in the wooden pole. But let's do a more fair comparison. Let's compare 1080p 30 frames per second on both phones. We get similar results as before. The colors on the S7 are a little bit more vibrant and darker. And in my opinion, the iPhone 6 video is more closer to real-life colors. Now let's try 1080p 60 frames per second. The smoothness and motion in both videos is very similar, and the difference is mainly the same as before, that the video in the S7 is a little bit darker and the iPhone 6 is more true to natural colors. Here's one interesting topic: slow motion video. The iPhone has been known for its great slow motion video, 720p 240 frames per second. Now Samsung has made great effort, and now they're quite similar, but I think the motion in the iPhone 6 slow motion video is a little bit smoother. It's difficult to rate audio in slow motion video. It's a little bit louder in the S7 video, but I'm not sure which one is more accurate. The audio from the S7 might sound a little bit thinner than the slow motion audio in the iPhone 6. Now let's test the audio quality between these phones. Now we're hearing the audio straight from the iPhone 6, and we'll compare to the audio from the Samsung Galaxy S7. We might get some wind noise, we'll see. And now using the audio from the Samsung Galaxy S7, we'll see how it compares to the iPhone 6 audio, and if the Galaxy S7 picks up the wind or not. As you can hear, the audio from the S7 is much higher than from the iPhone 6, but the iPhone 6 seems to have a slightly better noise cancellation. Let's hear the audio from the headphone included with the iPhone 6. So here we see beautiful trees, and this audio should sound a little better than from the built-in microphones. And now if we switch to the headphone that was included in the box with the Samsung Galaxy S7, we'll probably hear some difference from the built-in microphone, and maybe some better or worse wind management or noise cancellation due to the wind. With the headphones included with the S7, the audio is much louder but a little bit muffled and has worse noise cancelling than the internal microphone on the S7. With the iPhone 6 headphone that was included in the box, we get a better noise cancelling than with the internal mic, but also less sounds from the surroundings, like the birds. Now let's take the focus speed for a spin. There is no doubt that the S7 focuses much faster than the iPhone 6, probably mainly due to the S7 dual pixels and multiple focus points technique. Let's check out the low light functionality in video mode. The S7 low light videos are much brighter and smoother. The iPhone 6 videos in low light are much too dark and grainy, and in some cases unusable. Let's check out the video quality on the front-facing camera. As with the main camera, the S7 video delivers much darker and vibrant colors. But as before, the iPhone video has more natural colors. but the video here is a little bit washed out compared to the S7 video. And as with the main camera, the stabilization is much better in the S7 video than on the iPhone 6 one. The video is much more jerky than on the S7. Often when using the front-facing camera, there are other microphones used on the phone when recording with the main camera. So let's check out the audio quality when using the front-facing camera. Now we have the audio from the iPhone 6. And we might have some wind. And there are some birds in the surroundings. I don't know if you catch that. And now the wind is increasing. And now we have the audio from the Samsung Galaxy S7. And we got a little bit more wind now this time. You might catch the bird in the background, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe you'll hear the birds. As with the main camera, the audio is much louder on the S7, but with worse noise cancellation. So the audio is lower on the iPhone 6, but it has better noise cancellation. And for the fun of it, let's compare this audio to the audio using the front-facing camera and the included headphones. Now we're listening to the iPhone 6 headphones that were included in the box. Let's see if we pick up some bird noises and maybe the wind, I don't know. And now we're using the headphones included with the Samsung Galaxy S7. We should get a better audio quality than with the built-in mics. We'll see about that. I don't know if you catch the birds singing in the trees that are behind me. You can't see the birds, but you can see the trees. And the same is apparent as before. The audio is louder with the S7, but worse noise cancellation. Now let's test the focus speed of the front-facing camera. The focus speed of the S7 seems to be similar on the front-facing camera as with the main camera. And the iPhone 6 front-facing camera seems to be focusing faster than the main camera. Lastly, let's look at the low-light performance of the front-facing camera. The front-facing camera on the S7 is a little bit darker and more grainy than the main camera. But it's the opposite on the iPhone camera. The low-light video of the front-facing camera of the iPhone is brighter than the main camera, but the graininess is similar. I'm not saying that the low-light photography of the iPhone's front-facing camera is good, but it's better than the main camera. So what's the conclusion of this comparison? In many cases, the Samsung Galaxy S7 is delivering better quality photos and video. But in the video department in good lighting, the two cameras are very comparable. It's most often personal preference if you want more natural colors or more bright and vibrant colors, which camera you will choose. But in the low light photography and focus speeds, the S7 kills the iPhone 6. So, this was the end of my comparison. If you have any questions or comments on this comparison, please don't be afraid and ask me in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and it was really fun making it as well. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. See you in my next video.